It's your host again, and welcome to another episode in the summary series of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime on AniMonolith. After covering the tragic Scarlet Lakeshore incident, I bet many of you now have a new perspective on the softer, more emotional side of Testarossa. But today, we return to the main story, specifically the encounter between Rimuru and Gadra's group. As soon as they saw Rimuru, Gadra and the trio, Shinji and his crew, immediately bowed. They quickly introduced themselves as subordinates of Yuki, currently working undercover with Gadra to spy on Tempest's dungeon. Rimuru's first impression of Gadra? Surprisingly humble for someone so famous. An old man with sharp eyes dressed in a plain but refined robe. Gone was the overbearing figure from Falmouth. He now acted meek and polite. To ease the tension, Rimuru invited all four to the reception room for a more comfortable chat. As always, Rimuru had everything planned. Benimaru and his team were stationed next door, listening in to form counter-strategies in real time. Once seated, Rimuru served them all a nice cup of Americano coffee. Because why not solve tense political conversations with caffeine, right? Seeing the surprised attitude of Shinji's group, Rimuru understood that the Empire seemed to have no coffee. It was quite surprising that a country with so many aliens would lack this drink. After some polite small talk, Gadra suddenly dropped a bombshell. Actually, I'm a reincarnator. The room went silent. Rimuru and the others stared in shock. Turns out Gadra had reincarnated himself multiple times in pursuit of magical mastery, gathering a vast trove of knowledge each life. He also had a close bond with Adelman, and his entire goal in supporting the Empire was to avenge Adelman's death at the hands of the Western Holy Church. Gadra admitted he helped build up the Empire's military strength, preparing for the inevitable East-West War. It was basically a summary of his life, and Rimuru, while impressed, also saw him as someone self-righteous, ego-driven, and dangerously pragmatic. So, Rimuru asked directly, "So you're saying you're the main reason the Empire's about to launch a war?" Gadra scrambled to explain. He claimed the Empire was bound to wage war sooner or later. He just redirected them westward to minimize damage and serve his own goals. A pretty clever excuse, but it didn't sit well with Rimuru. Convenient for who, old man? We're the ones about to get steamrolled. Putting the philosophy lesson aside, Rimuru asked for intel. Gadra spilled a lot, like how the Empire had tried and failed to ally with the Dwarven Kingdom, and how they were now considering assassination to eliminate resistance. Even though Gadra was on decent terms with Emperor Rudra, he wasn't influential enough to stop entire campaigns. Rimuru knew he needed to warn King Gazelle ASAP. More importantly, Gadra also spilled details about the Imperial military, the thinking of its upper ranks, and even exposed Yuki's coup plans. Man, say what you will about Yuki, but sending 4 spies to Tempest and watching them all get charmed by protagonist Aura is hilarious. To ease Gadra's mind, Rimuru revealed that Adelman was still alive and now serving Tempest passionately. The news crushed Gadra's thirst for revenge. His old friend had found peace. Maybe it was time he did too. Furthermore, with a country like Tempest that used Primordial to work, the Empire might not necessarily win. If they were aggressive, they might even be counter-stabbed by Yuki. In short, following the call of power, Gadra officially asked to join Rimuru. Unexpected, right? A man with no loyalty now begging to become a subordinate. Surprisingly, Rimuru didn't mind. He saw through the old man's contradictions and decided to give him a chance, though he knew Benimaru's group wouldn't be thrilled. Rimuru agreed to temporarily take in Gadra with the thought of making the most of this old man. It wasn't that Rimuru was someone who enjoyed exploiting others' labor, but because he thought that Gadra would feel better if he worked hard. Gadra was then sent to the 70th floor to reunite with Adelman. The two old friends shared a heartfelt reunion. Later, Rimuru planned to assign Gadra as Ramirez's assistant, but first gave him a crucial mission: go back to the Empire and use his silver tongue to stop the war. Want me to handle that? I'm great at backstage manipulation. Gadra was clearly very confident, but for Rimuru, this was just Plan B. Plan A was to prepare for war. If peace failed, the idea was to lure the Empire into the labyrinth, where battles wouldn't cost Tempest any real losses. To help that happen, Rimuru gave Gadra 3 resurrection bracelets and some high-tier dungeon equipment. He knew full well how tempting that loot would be to Empire officers. Everyone falls for free gear eventually, Rimuru thought. Meanwhile, Shinji's group decided to stay in Tempest. They'd rest for now and find new roles later. They still respected Yuki and didn't want to oppose him directly, which Rimuru understood. though he warned them not to trust Yuki too much. Despite everything, Rimuru didn't hate Yuki. They shared a homeland after all, but trust? That was another story. So with new allies and a risky but clever strategy in motion, Tempest quietly prepared for what was to come. After sending Gadra off to the Empire, Rimuru went straight to Ramirez and Veldora to interrogate them. What? I'm not hiding anything. That was Ramirez's immediate guilty reaction. Her jittery attitude only confirmed Rimuru's suspicions. Something was being kept from him. Especially after witnessing Albert, now a Death Paladin with special A-rank strength, crush Shinji's group in battle. The weird part? Rimuru had no idea Albert had evolved. If that changed, what about the other dungeon floors? Was everyone secretly leveling up while Rimuru was busy? Turns out, yes. When he thought about the punishment of never being able to eat cake again, Ramirez spilled everything, enthusiastically. Apparently, the dungeon bosses had been getting ridiculously strong lately, especially Zejian and Apito. On top of that, while Rimuru was playing busybody and leaving everything to Raphael, Arno's team had gone back to challenge the dungeon again. After being scolded by Hinata for being careless during their fight with Granbull, they decided to redeem themselves by re-clearing the dungeon. This time, they blasted their way down to floor 70 because the golem was under maintenance, but were immediately stomped and sent home in tears. Gahahaha! It was glorious to watch! Even Veldora couldn't hold back his laughter. Rimuru felt kind of left out, but at least Raphael had been logging the battle data. That gave him a little comfort. Based on Arno's ability and the rage boost he got from Hinata's scolding, Rimuru figured they could have reached floor 96 or 99. After all, he thought, Arno should be able to beat pre-awakening Clayman. Yes, Rimuru just casually used Clayman as a power benchmark again. Still, Rimuru underestimated his own subordinates and overestimated others. He was stunned when Ramirez revealed that Apito had been the one to beat Arno's group. They couldn't even touch her before being burned down and sent running, crying. That gave Rimuru a laugh, but also made him realize the dungeon was evolving way faster than expected. And that was a good thing. If Apito was this strong now, what about Zegion? Veldora proudly declared that Zegion had undergone a complete evolution and been trained into an invincible warrior. In fact, he'd inherited Veldora's secret martial arts techniques, which, yes, were based on moves from manga. Nani? Rimuru couldn't believe those flashy, over-the-top moves had actual combat application. Even more unbelievable that an insect like Zegion could use them. This led Rimuru to suspect that Zegion might have evolved into a full-blown demon type, similar to the monstrous Rajin from Ruberio's. Veldora just laughed. Turns out this was a setup. Veldora had deliberately kept things hidden just to surprise him. Curious now, Rimuru asked Raphael to show him Zegion's current form, and sure enough, he now had a slender, humanoid body, giving off massive intimidation. Just like Rajin, a powerful aura, unreal presence. Even Apito had gone through a similar transformation. She now looked like a full-on beautiful woman, but her new body wasn't just for show. Thanks to her training with Hinata, Apito had drastically improved her speed-based combat style. She even sparred regularly with Zejian. No wonder she roasted Arno's team. As for them, after getting whooped, they humbly restarted their dungeon conquest from floor 1. But once again, they hit a wall on floor 60, where they encountered, surprise, Albert. Even after several retreats, they were repeatedly crushed. Eventually, they gave up trying to beat him and decided to make Albert their master. Yep, they officially switched over to being Albert's students and began training under him. After discovering the insane growth of Zejian, Albert, and Apito, with power levels off the charts, Rimuru now has his eyes on the rest of the dungeon's Elite 10, the strongest monsters under Tempest's banner. Fueled by excitement, Ramirez began proudly announcing the current members. From floor 99 to 96, we have the 4 Dragon Lords, once just elemental dragons caught by Milim, and now evolved through Veldora's Magicule Storm. At floor 90, it's the 9-headed beast Kumara, whose combined power from her 9 heads makes her terrifying. Then the insect duo, Zejian, the insect emperor on floor 80, and Apito, the insect queen on floor 79. Adelman, the immortal king, and Albert, the death paladin, dominate floor 70. And overseeing them all, Beretta, the Elite 10's manager and supervisor. However, despite Ramirez's efforts to bring everyone under her wing, she only succeeded in officially signing the 4 Dragon Lords. With Beretta on her side too, that gave her 5 out of the 10. The other half? Yeah, not so loyal. Despite being offered a salary, both Gozul and Mesul refused Ramirez outright and pledged themselves to Rimuru instead. Talk about workplace drama. Turns out, Veldora and Ramirez had been babysitting a grand total of 7 loyal monsters on Rimuru's behalf all this time. Zegion, Apito, Kumara, Adelman, Albert, and the duo Gozul and Mesul. In the end, ownership aside, what mattered was that these powerful beings had developed beyond expectations. With so many demon lord-level fighters stationed inside, the dungeon had become an iron fortress. Rimuru was now fully confident that if the Empire ever dared to invade the labyrinth, they'd be annihilated. To get a closer look, he spent the next day personally inspecting the labyrinth's developments. At the same time, his long-awaited surveillance system was finally ready for use. This wasn't just any tech, it was Argus, the Eye of God, a powerful remote observation system. Think of it as a magical command center, equipped with massive screens and powered by Megiddo, the same physical magic Rimuru once used to massacre 20,000 Falmouth soldiers. How it worked was genius. Using lens-shaped water droplets, Argus captured real-time images. These droplets floated high in the sky like satellites, and smaller droplets acted as mirrors to reflect and redirect beams. Yes, laser beams. Rimuru even deployed tiny slime clones to act as on-site triggers, all connected through spatial domination, allowing for zero-delay commands. Data from Argus was processed by Raphael, ensuring perfect image clarity on the monitors. Rimuru could now watch over the entire Jura Forest, major trade routes in the Dwarven Kingdom, and even Falmouth's borders. And of course, it wouldn't be Rimuru if he didn't test it in the dumbest way possible. While calibrating the laser, he playfully zapped Gobta in the leg. Gobta's horrified reaction? Unforgettable. Rimuru actually got dizzy from laughing too hard. Though Megiddo was already an advanced spell, Raphael still wasn't satisfied, so they upgraded it again, adding floating satellite lens units to allow nighttime firing. The power was weaker after dark, but during the day, Rimuru could vaporize an human army with a single shot, without lifting a finger. It was basically a heat ray cannon disguised as a defense system. And just like that, Rimuru had turned his dungeon into a high-tech, Demon Lord-level kill zone. With the Dungeon Elite 10 standing by, Argus in the sky, and Tempest ready for war. And in the next video, we will follow Godra's story when he returns to the Empire. Thank you for listening. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos of AniMonolith.